I said earlier the topic today was going to be how Facebook facilitates the worst tendencies in terms of like borderline personality disorder. So if you're
That's a great subject.
But that wasn't. Well, I guess we didn't agree on it. I just suggested it, and no one argued against it. I thought it was.
That's
good.
a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, I think most social media does that.
Yeah, but Facebook is special in a way because I don't know. It just gives this certain kind of. I guess on one hand, like it's like 1 second. If you're a hot e-girl bitch, you could just be like, all right, I'm gonna post some unhinged, victim mentality, fucking rant, whatever, and then people will be like, oh wow, that's really fucking gross and annoying. And then the next second they'll post like a really sexy selfie, and then everyone will observe it, and they'll be like, yo, this is yeah, I'm down with this. I like this. So it creates this like weird interplay between just like mentally unhinged ranting and like sexual innuendos and fucking I don't know, like what's the word?
Wait, are we
promiscuous
recording?
selfies. Yeah, we're recording.
Oh fuck! I didn't realize that. Sorry, don't put on music. Put on.
Yeah, I can turn the sound down.
Oh, I see. Just
Sound
for the
down?
video. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. You startled me with that.
I didn't mean to startle you with that shit. I just figured this was an appropriate time to just like kind of
cut into this bullshit. Yeah.
Right. It makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for the drink, Carmen. This is really good.
You're welcome.
I like it. I'm enjoying this.
Rum and Coke, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
lime juice.
Didn't you? Yeah, you put some.
That's about the extent of it. Nothing of note otherwise.
Yo, so didn't you say you were going to make some Internacional? Is that a cocktail or?
It is, but there was no pineapple juice. So in Hotel Nacional is lime juice, pineapple juice, simple syrup, white rum, apricot schnapps. But unfortunately, I didn't have apricot schnapps. I do have peach brandy, which I was going to substitute, but there is no pineapple juice available. So I was like, let me just.
Yes, thank you, local bodega. It sucks
if it doesn't have that.
You also need coconut, some coconut flavored bullshit.
Oh, that'd be wonderful
like
too.
rum.
Well, there's no coconut, but that works.
All right. So anyway, you know who else likes boozy cocktails and fruity boozy cocktails? BPD women, and just you know what else they love?
I'm a lot like a BPD woman.
They love Facebook. Are you really?
Well, they used to. I think. This is a generational
so what are some of the
gap.
biggest features of a BPD bitch? I mean, they have like this crazy victimhood complex, right? Like constantly, everything that goes wrong in their life is like something that you're just not responsible for because they have this. I mean, sometimes I don't even blame them a lot of times. Well, actually, I do blame them a lot of the times. But sometimes there's those like exceptions where they do have some like crazy fucked up trauma going on. There is some like crazy dark shit in their past that is probably hindering them from making like good decisions ever again. And that is sad. But, at some point, maybe it's just not like a values issue, but more of like a habits issue,
Mm-hmm.
And not like physical habits necessarily, but like...
Well, I guess I could look up the actual definition of BPD, but it's like a series of personality traits that are like,
disorder.
Attracting attention, causing chaos or inventing chaos around them.
Max, you want the mic?
Yeah.
What are you looking for, dude?
Well, I found it, a vape.
Oh, you were looking for the
Yeah.
vape. I'm
Switching
sorry.
off here. Anyway.
Yeah, so...
What, attention-seeking, histrionics, neurosis, that's your borderline... destructive narcissism.
Another thing
I'm probably missing other things from borderline personality disorder right
Another
here.
thing Facebook doesn't have is the word limit on posts.
That's true as well.
It doesn't. But come on, aren't there just boomers on Facebook
I think
now?
it's mostly boomers, honestly.
Not really. Well, actually...
Maybe there's a
I
class signaling, too.
No, because I don't know. I don't even notice boomers on any... like literal boomers, actual boomers in that actual age demographic. I don't fucking notice them on like social media platforms. I do notice...
Emotional instability, feelings of worthlessness, insecurity, impulsivity, impaired social relationships.
So
That's
it sounds like just
the
like
borderline
bad discipline.
personality.
Like a person with absolutely no fucking discipline. Or any
Yeah,
sense of
with a
order.
very feminine coding to it.
I guess. I mean, I didn't say that, but like Pete, what's his name? Pete Davidson is apparently diagnosed with BPD disorder.
That's not surprising.
Really?
BPD disorder.
Interesting.
That's like
He's
saying
running
ATM
up
machine.
against, or was running up against Kanye for the duration of that.
No, Kanye is just classic bipolar. Don't do my man dirty like that.
No, I'm not. He's not BPD. But you have a case of
Kanye's not
a
my man.
bipolar nigga running up against a BPD nigga because he's
Two niggas.
Jewish and Italian. Jewish and Italian.
He's from, I think he's from Ireland.
No, Irish. Davison.
Oh man, I mean,
Emotional dysregulation disorder is another name for borderline personality disorder.
yeah, because too many people were
unstable
calling it.
moods, behaviors, and relationships.
Too many people were calling it bad person disorder.
It feels well,
Or
best pussy
disorder.
disorder. Dear, don't steal my line.
No, it's
even
alright.
though I stole it too.
I don't like that best pussy disorder because they don't
Why?
even have the best pussy.
In my experience, yes. But I don't know what mine has a very narrow selection. What's the word? Selection bias.
I don't think BPD girls have the best pussy. I think like sociopath women have the best pussy, or like psychopathic women have the best pussy. BPD is just annoying. It's like sociopathic
interesting.
and shit. That's tantalizing. That's actual taboo. That's crazy shit. That's legit dangerous. Whereas BPD shit is just fucking annoying and kind of like, it's not that necessarily that they're pathetic. It's you're pathetic at that point for sticking around for that shit, for like for tolerating that and like subjecting yourself to that. It's like, I mean, it was funny because like someone was like saying how like for a white guy to be dating like a girl with BPD is the closest he'll ever get to experiencing like any kind of racism or something. You know, like because it's like
Interesting take.
well, it's the only way to really get to a guy of the highest privilege class at that point is if you're a hot bitch that's capable of like taking your life out from the inside out, but it's like where you subject yourself to it and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's swamp Richie and me.
Yeah, Mike.
First of all, every white guy experiences racism every day.
That's correct.
We're generally stereotyped as being racist, and unfortunately, not all of us are.
That's true.
So-
Unfortunately, way too many aren't racist. This is a mysterious fourth Mike who, for professional reasons, shall remain mysterious.
No, wait, I got a really good
I think this is a good setup.
No, look, I got a really good observation. Have you noticed that not a lot of BPD people, I've never seen them. Have you noticed not a lot of them are racist? They're all like anti-racist.
Yeah.
I mean, you could
Because they're women.
Of course, most of them are women.
So are they just anti-racist because like they're just not allowed to, like, are people with BPD not allowed to be racist? Is that just something they're locked out of? Like,
It's
most of them are women, so it makes them like most of them are probably pretty liberal.
I think a lot of it is related to manipulating social spheres, and that's the connection to being anti-racist. If our society valued racism as a trait, then every BPD person would be the most racist.
Yeah, it's about social cohesion.
Well, they're not in favor of cohesion, but yes,
Women are in
exactly.
favor of social
Yeah.
maybe there are it's just
It's because they're going with whatever allows them to manipulate the best, and currently, anti-racism allows maximum manipulation.
Right. Whatever benefits women the most.
I think racism could benefit. Actually, no, it can't. Not at this point. It's probably going to harm them, or at least harm their like social standing with most people at this point.
Yeah, it would. Social standing, they have no reason to be racist, which is why you have anti-racist BPD.
No, they would rather be the non-racist person but tolerate the racist guy that has sex with them than to actually be racist themselves, which I've seen before.
Yeah.
I have seen like the quote unquote normal girl who dates like a really racist guy. And she's like, oh, he's just, I don't know, he's just like that. It's like, all right. Like, he's just a Nazi. I don't know. It's like, are you a Nazi? No, I'm not a Nazi. Maybe he just has a really big dick and a really nice car, like, and a lot of fucking money.
I bet that's very unlikely for a guy who's
Like a neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
It's like white trash or something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Or a poster.
I'll handle this one. So,
please.
Here's the explanation: is he's not actually a Nazi. He's just a regular conservative, which are, unfairly stereotyped as being Nazis these days. But unfortunately, are not Nazis. As much as it would be much better for the country if they were. But these are just regular guys who, yes, they are racist, but they're generally mostly just misogynistic, which is what these girls are looking for. It's not the racism, it's the misogyny. So, you're talking about guys who are, they're aggressive, they're assertive, relatively successful, but more importantly, they're just guys who are able to give the girl the relative level of objectification that they're looking for. I mean, that's the problem with you know,
Yeah, I was thinking about this picture, by the way. Look at this.
oh, well, nobody's gonna be able to see the picture.
No, it's just, what do you think of that?
I mean,
You edit
I
it
think
in.
it's great.
If you're
You-
interested in editing it
Do you
in.
like this picture?
So for the listeners, it's two gay men having sex. It's
Yeah.
two muscular gay men.
I was like,
I don't know.
shit.
The woman is too white.
I was like, this makes me think AI will never be funnier than real life. Like, I was
well,
like,
the AI protections prevent it from being as funny as real life in some respects.
no,
But
so,
there are workarounds.
right, but what you're talking about is just like there are women out there who need like a misogynist to come. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad because it's like, unfortunately, feminism can't do anything for these women. If anything, feminism is self-defeating for these women because, feminism is about, women coming. But unfortunately, it's counterproductive in this case. And it's, feminism is not for every girl because, some of them just need like an extremely, not even like racist. Like the racism is really like a byproduct of the misogyny. Like they're looking for an extremely misogynistic guy. It's that
Yeah.
simple,
Yeah, they like a guy who's just an asshole because he's taking control of his agency in a certain sense, and that really turns them on. And it's not the whole population of women's. It's just a certain small, specific percentage of them that just happens to be like hot a lot of the time, not most of the time, but a lot of the time. I mean, have you ever seen an ugly girl who's really into misogyny, like sexually turned on by like a misogynist?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they have, but they're very blatant about it as opposed to playful about it. Like, it's really depressing how overt, like, they're just begging for misogyny. A bunch of women, a lot of women are into various forms of degradation fetishes, but they're usually discreet about it. If they're ugly, then they're very overt about it.
Well, I've seen. That's why you have like certain characters I've seen like on Facebook or whatever. They'll be like these like alpha Chad guys. They're like they're like super into like like being a gym rat. They got big muscles, and everything they would post about would be about, say, like, oh, fat women or fucking fat American women or black people or fat black women people. Just like kind of like dogging, I guess, the most common denominator, I guess, or the least common denominator, the most common denominator,
Least or lowest
Lowest
of
common
social,
denominator, yeah.
not even lowest common denominator, because lowest common denominator refers to
the everyman, I guess.
the lowest common trait.
Yeah.
They're pushing down at a very low status group despite being buff guys.
Yeah.
Weird dynamic of buff guys being very angry, hateful, vengeful towards.
But they get a lot of what's it called? They get a lot of traction, for example. Well, maybe because
or they're just farming for traction.
yeah, I guess, because like if you piss off a lot of people in a certain aspect, then you're gonna appeal to a lot of people. That's just how it goes. Apparently,
Probably a bunch of resentful, far less physically appealing guys
they
who
could
want
use
to
that
glom
as a-
onto these fit guys saying the same petty misogyny.
But also the women, like you said, the women that are into it are, like you said, the women that are practically screaming for misogyny. Like they're begging for misogyny, and they get that too. They get the fix from the same kind of character who's like, oh yeah, these fat bitches or these delusional, ugly fat women. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing, and they always go after like these low quality dudes and all.
So how
shit.
about this? We talk about different personalities you see on social media.
Okay, so there's
Does that work
archetypes.
for you? Yeah, these
So there's
archetypes.
So there's the BPD archetype we covered. There's the Alpha Chad archetype we covered.
I don't know. If a guy's spending all that time online, he's probably not very Chad. If you're spending a lot of time online, you're an odd person. You're
I don't
a
know.
dysfunctional
I don't know if you
person.
could say that in the modern era because like it's like now people are becoming more and more sedentary and like isolated in their own like little apartments and office spaces. I mean, WeWork went out of business. Like no
Yeah.
one likes shared workspaces anymore. No one likes shared anything anymore. Except for like, I don't know, I guess the minority. So yeah, I think I think now that people, I think just the online thing is becoming more. But I don't think they're. You're right. You know what? I should stop steel manning these people. They're dicks too. They're like pathetic losers who are also, because if you got to sit there all day like dogging on like the lowest.
It's just spending a lot of time online is a signifier of, even if someone has a lot of money, they're buff, they're attractive in other ways, there's something deeply wrong if you're spending that much time online, even though it dominates the world today.
Yeah.
I think, am I going to contradict myself here? I think people spend a lot of time, a lot of people spend a lot of time posting now. Being that fixated on it suggests a certain personality.
Of course, yeah, I thought about that too. Yeah, it's like, why do you
Alright.
care so much about these people that have like
Yeah.
nothing to do with you at this point? Yeah, I've noticed that.
It really never mind, went off track. What other archetypes have we got here?
Okay, there's there's like the culture vulture type, you know, like people who like obsess over like crazy, like overanalyzing like every cultural happening that happens day by day, you know, like people who go from like talking about how Kanye is unhinged and why he's unhinged and the effects on blah blah blah, and you know there's and then there's the people that even like go even deeper and say like, another example would be like the I guess the dime square people. That's like the East Coast manifestation of that, you know. And then there on the West Coast, there's like Portland, you know, like just like these insufferable people that just like really do look down on everyone who like has a job and actually pays their fucking rent, you know, like maybe wants to get married and have kids and a normal life, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
They're the writers, you know, that used to write for like all those apparently prolific fucking websites that are now like just getting shut down.
All these Condé Nast websites that are being shut down right now. You're just like how Gawker was shut down, so was Pitchfork just now.
Yeah. So that's another archetype, the culture vultures. But they've been really silent because there's nothing for them to fucking talk about.
There are individual people who are trying to imitate somewhat larger media presence figures, but perhaps the personality type separate from the internet. But
That's one archetype, yeah, the culture vulture archetype. I mean, what?
go on.
What you're talking about is the death of the excuse me, the death of the hot take economy. So it used to be, you know, hot takes were currency, and you know, people were genuinely invested in them. And I'd say like probably around 2020, beginning of 2023, right? It's about a year ago. The hot takes were just dead, and I don't know why exactly, but nobody gave a shit anymore about hot takes. Like everyone just gave up. There's like no more common ground. We're all just like, okay, we all have disagreements. We're not gonna attempt to even debate them. We're all just gonna retreat into our own little enclaves, and there's no hot takes. Like the only thing that goes viral is like, you know, like a video of a guy falling into a pothole or some shit. Like, you know, like
The weird food shit.
Man falls off cliff, you know.
Or it's like
Hot takes have died, and like a kind of funny video.
Fruity
is
Pebble steak. Like,
Yeah.
a kind of funny video. It feels like a return to form from an earlier period of the internet.
Yeah, like 90s retarded.
Yeah, it is.
Like, yeah.
It's like what it was initially being made fun of about the internet and what people consumed.
Yeah, but mostly it's just because people gave up debating.
Yeah,
Like,
understandably so.
nobody's willing to have a conversation anymore. You know, if you
Unfortunately.
well, if you disagree, okay, too bad. You know, we disagree. Nobody's like, okay, cool. We'll have this like debate, because you know, it got like hot takes got to the point where it's like weaponized, and people are you know, afraid for their life. You know, it's like the hot take is coming for your job, it's coming for your family. Like that's it. Like nobody's gonna engage in hot takes anymore.
I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people did it to themselves. For example, like let's say at one point, like in your childhood, you were just heavily influenced and you were highly inspired and you were motivated and driven by like David Bowie songs. And like you could even say like you almost like you ingested so much of David Bowie's music repetitively throughout your early childhood to your teenagers to the point where you're an adult and you've literally made David Bowie a part of your life. Like that's who you are, a part of your identity. And then out of nowhere, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, David Bowie tried to have sex with this 14-year-old groupie, who had sex with rock stars, whatever, but she was still like only a teenager. And, it's like, that was weird.
Laurie Maddox, by the way.
I'm not saying that was like, that's just the only example, but that's just one example of how like you consume enough of an artist's, a cultural facet. Like you consume enough of it, it becomes a part of your identity. And suddenly once that person becomes compromised, you can't just like play that anymore because
the cost of engaging in life gets a lot higher. Another factor with the hot take economy is people got so inured with controversy, with provocative statements that they just zoned out from it. Everyone knows what's going to happen. You're going to get into an argument with someone in real life over a bullshit social media trend.
Yeah, it's very hard to
I agree, by the way, mysterious fourth mic, with people getting sick of debate, getting sick of, I don't know, what is it? Has it been 10 years that this has been going on?
Look, people just want to fuck at this point. Like,
Yeah.
People do not want anything other than to find a mate. They want like a partner,
Richard, can you get the
someone
bottle?
who they can fuck. That maybe who agrees with them. Maybe they're hot. Whatever they're looking for. Other than that, at this point, like, they want to keep their friends. They want friends. They want to keep their friends. The internet can make you friends, but also it can just lose you all of your friends.
Yeah, a lot of people have lost friends over dumb internet bullshit.
Never late again.
It can also
Ruin your life.
ruin your life, destroy your career. You're begging on the street. I mean, your family won't talk to you anymore. So I mean, like, people have just seen too much of that, especially over the past few years, where it's been really fucking intense. It's not like nobody's playing around anymore. This is like it's like war, right?
Well, I found the next bit of novelty that I think is relatively safe. I've recently gotten into. I mean, I'm not saying it's not compromised. It is compromised, but that's it's the point of it isn't to engage with it socially. I think the most benefit is to apply it practically. But like, when you dive into like theological theology, creation myths, and spiritual. Because one thing I noticed about the internet, like just for a second, and I know this is crazy. Just for a second, I looked outside of like media and social media and all that shit, and I dived into the actual information shit. I mean, history is history. That's whatever, and it's like watery at best because it's always going to be used for some like political leverage that someone's going to use in their narrative, and even that's like doesn't feel satisfying to dive into because you're just going to be like more of the same shit. It's like, oh, this is just going to be used as justification for whatever, blah blah blah, and whatever. But when you look into like, I don't know, like the theology and spiritual historic texts and all that shit, it's like that's like been interesting because I never explored that before, and maybe you guys have, and maybe I'm just a fucking noob in that area, but I've been enjoying. I've basically found a new way to appreciate the internet, because like I was just like really black-pilled about the internet too, until I realized, wait a minute, there's like actual information out there.
Well, there's a ton of. I mean, the original fantasy of the internet or goal, dream of the internet was that the original dream of the internet was that all this proliferation of knowledge and information will allow everyone to self-educate themselves.
Yeah, that's what I've been using
and
for once.
Yes, most people don't. They have all these other distractions. They have all these masturbatory practices, whether literally porn, video games, the social media, blood sports.
Yeah,
all of these are very onanistic. They aren't accomplishing anything. They take up a lot of time. They're very self-absorbed, self-involved.
All right, well, let's set aside spirituality because that's also loaded. Maybe something as simple as like bike mechanic shit. Like, because I'm into building bikes, and like I think I have a way better time at it because of the internet.
Yes,
You know
there's
what
a
I'm saying?
tremendous amount of information available. And a lot of people will use this to a certain degree.
Like, not even
but they'll
just-
only
yeah.
barely, like, briefly touch upon
Another
it.
example
But-
is cooking. Like, without the internet, I'd be fucking
Yeah.
I'd be ass at cooking. You know, like I can't.
It is interesting how, with all this information available, everything you can learn from the internet, the vast majority of people's internet time is time spent fucking around.
For better or for worse, though, what another
Yeah.
thing the internet taught me how to do is like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Like the internet taught me how to like set all this shit up and like how to like edit content and put it together and record it and like, you know, all that shit. So I'm just like trying to get good at it. And if I do get good at it, it's like the question is, am I going to use it for good or evil?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's very possible that neither will happen if we're just a neutral state morally. But
The only thing is, like, I would get way better at it at an exponential rate, like editing content, creating content, is if I just didn't have to work a full-time job. Even if it is working from home,
Yeah.
it still does take, like, a huge part of my fucking, like, energy and mental shit. And, wow, I just wish, like, the audience could see what we're seeing right now.
you just have to splice it in for the audience's sake.
Yeah.
Just overlay this footage of
You know what? You got to give the Japanese like credit where it's due. Like if you imagine it, they'll figure out a way to like put it out there. Like
Yeah.
some chick in bikini flying a fucking F-16 alien
Prince of
F-16.
Black, yeah.
Yeah.
well, terms of Okinawan, I guess.
Okay, so another archetype. We went through the culture vultures. After that,
Yeah.
another archetype is the perpetual black pillar, which they surprise me. Like I hate them, but I respect them because like, how do they get an audience for their black pill like outlook, constant black, like depressive?
I don't know.
fucking,
People
like,
are looking for excuses to be depressed.
Yeah, that's fair.
they fill a niche, you know, like
Yeah.
they're an outlet for that. Like I know this guy always understands me when I'm always feeling like a fucking piece of shit. So they need that perpetual black pillar there to validate that aspect of their the facet of their existence. I mean, I don't see them anymore because I block them out. I just can't vibe with them anymore. Like just looking at that shit, like literally just. It upsets me. I'm like, you're purposely doing this. You know, you're purposely being this depressive piece of shit, ruminating over exes, and you don't even have any shame because you've gone past that, but in the worst way possible. You know, like
Well, it's interesting you mentioned a personal matter like exes.
like
That'd be
Edgar.
one-
Like I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to finish my thought by saying
Go
like.
ahead.
Edgar Allan Poe was a genius writer, but if you saw like modern Edgar Allan Poes, you would actually be repulsed by them in person. You'd be
Of
like,
course.
"Get the fuck away from me!" You know, like. But anyway, what were you saying?
I was going to say, this is particularly true. You talk about politics. The political black pillars of various varieties.
Oh god, they're
are-
violently black pill though. They're not
Yes.
personal black pill. They're just violently black pill, like oppressive.
Their goal, the reason for existence is to be depressing and to try to make other people depressed.
and that's even worse. That's more malicious than what I'm talking about. But you're right, that is an actual thing too.
And it's
Like
surprisingly common. There's a lot of people who are.
it's more common than what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. It's what I'm talking about is a very personal, like But they're a rare specimen compared to what a political black pillar who's like, look at all the gayification of all the which
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't.
Usually gay or retarded.
If you
Yeah,
look at-
but
in the hip
making a
hop,
your whole life based around
What
saying
else-
life
what else
sucks.
there to do?
There's a lot of things, as we were talking about earlier. Frankly,
Like gossiping about other people?
yeah, you
Yeah,
can do
but how do
that.
you think how do you
being
think
productive? You can make
Being
something.
productive, yeah. You can find with the internet allows you to learn any hobby. You could
but
just
also
pick
it's
up.
retarded as well. Which is
But
like
you can
downside.
ignore the retarded parts and just focus on.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure we have better society now. Totally isn't evident.
Well, because most people
People are
don't.
increasingly retarded.
They are,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
They are increasingly retarded, but you yourself don't have to be increasingly retarded.
True, but it's a wave of retardation you have to deal with.
Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah.
First of all, like I don't think like I think it really is more nature than nurture. To be honest, I mean, sorry, I think it's the opposite. I think it's more nurture than nature.
Wow, really convincing here.
I do think it's more nurture than nature at this point. Then, and that means if the internet is making more people retarded, that means the internet is just as capable of making more people not retarded.
In theory, yeah. I mean, practice, maybe.
So it's not a values issue. It's a habits issue.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So then, well, I guess what the real problem is like there's no institution that teaches you how to take in information from the internet correctly.
For when to cut it off.
For when they cut it off.
For when to cut off internet usage.
It's a curious question, actually, that why don't more people choose to utilize the internet for good?
I think they do. They just don't know they do, and so they don't like realize or to even talk about the fact that they do. Like for example, every time you learn how to like, you know, if someone gets a flat, what do? Oh, they look up on YouTube, how do I change a flat tire? Or it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like that's useful shit.
It
you know?
is. Why aren't there more people who have one of those experiences and then from that point on are constantly looking up information like how to change a flat tire?
What's that also like? I also look up porn content if I want to, or anything else I'm interested in.
Or it's like, for example, like, you know, you know what? I think I do use the internet for it's like if I get a date, you know, and I learn information about my date, it's like, oh, where are we going to meet? And then I would look up, for example, like good places to eat around, like simple rudimentary shit.
Yeah, it seems like you need to have something that is encouraging you to do so. Or like you have to have a motivation brought upon by some other circumstance in your life.
Or for example, let's say you wanted to get into fitness or nutrition. It's like, well, how do I change my diet? There's so many tools out there where it's like, this is what I eat. This is how many calories I ingest. How do I fix this? And it'll tell you. You know, it's like impersonal because it's all automated. It's not like, you know, you don't have to go to a forum anymore. You could just type the numbers in, you know, and it'll like spit it out.
I will say that search functions work a lot worse than they used to. When it was on a forum, I definitely felt like the discussions and the engagement was a lot better. That being said, all this is still available.
What about translation technology? Do you think that got better or worse?
Oh, vastly better, of course.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That shit is crazy.
Why would you even ask that question?
You could
Google
go to-
Translate is incredible
Yeah,
now.
you could go to. They'll use it on you if you go to other countries before you use it on them. They'll be like,
Yeah.
you know, like you'll be in China, and then like they'll just be like, oh, they'll whip out their Google Translate app and say what they want to say, and then they'll show it to you, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, and then you'll speak into their shit, and then it'll translate it
I
to
just gotta
Chinese.
stop you there, Chris. I'm not going to China. So first of all, I disagree with the premise of this question.
What?
You know, I will go to China.
You will go to China?
Well, no, I won't.
I'm not. Well, I never said you should go to China.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just saying-
you're hypothesizing that I'll go.
all right,
to China.
fine. Let's use South America instead of China.
That's all right. That's more.
Let's say Peru.
Okay,
Yeah. You go to Peru or not even Peru. Let's go to Brazil. Actually, no, I don't want to go to Brazil. You don't want to go to Brazil, Richie?
No, it fucking sucks. I'm fucking gonna go to Brazil for.
No, you don't want to go to Brazil.
You can see a lot of great music in Brazil. You can have great barbecue. You can go there and everything's just meat rotating on a stick. You love meat
Yeah, yeah.
in a gay way.
I can get my head cut off by cartel members.
Yeah.
Brazil,
Prostitutes.
Brazil is basically Thailand, just with less transvestite prostitutes.
I mean, around being
No, there's a
Thailand,
lot of
it's cheaper.
transvestite prostitutes in Brazil.
Yeah, Thailand's cheaper too as well.
Is it cheaper?
Yeah, it's clearly cheaper.
Because I heard prostitutes in like fucking South
Brazil,
America.
I could see being very cheap.
In
too,
South
yeah.
American countries, they'll cost you 200 like pesos, which costs you like, what is it? How many cents in American dollars?
No clue.
It's crazy shit. Like the exchange, the poverty is no joke out there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, basically, Rich's stance is he likes Asians, so he wants to go to Thailand instead of Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, Japan's honestly ideal.
Well,
As we're watching.
yeah.
You gotta have the money for Japan, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Japan is fucking expensive. I think the best way to travel to Japan on a budget is to go there for a job.
That's really hard to get if you're a foreigner.
You could teach English,
Yeah.
but you got to learn Japanese.
Right,
but that you
right.
could do for free, honestly, at this point.
That is true.
Yeah, that's another thing that I recommend people should do to be less retarded is to learn a second language. I don't care what language it is. I'm not going to be a language fucking superior language elitist.
Purist?
Yeah,
Purist. I just think if you learn more than one language, it really helps your cognition in a lot of ways. It doesn't matter how stupid. It could be like English and the stupidest fucking language like French or some shit.
Esperanto or something, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, or it could be you could learn something sophisticated like Pidgin, you know?
This is the reverse. French is what I would call a sophisticated language. And
it's the other
Pidgin,
way.
no.
Pidgin is the most sophisticated language
What?
in the world.
Low German, high German.
Oh, German. German's crazy. It's like I feel like it's easy to respect German culture from the outside, but it's hard to respect it from the inside.
What, you don't like Eurodance?
No, I love German culture, but I know people that have lived amongst the Germans and they hated it.
Interesting.
She told me like Germans were like just terrible, horrible people.
I mean, I can see that too, but
But I love them. I think from the outsider's perspective, it's like they seem cool to me. Like these dudes just like autistic as hell. I mean, apparently, like the stereotype goes, it's like you go up to a German, and then they'll invite you. It's like, oh, do you want to come over for some tea? And you'd be like, oh, I don't want to impose. And be like, all right, and they'll just start walking away, and then you're like, wait, no, and they'll just like walk faster. You know, it's like.
No, that sounds great. That sounds like a society that actually makes sense to me.
Yeah, and functions properly.
Exactly, I agree.
It's like the level of autism is something that's appealing to an autist.
Yeah, because you're like, this is I mean, it makes sense, but apparently when you're in there, like, I don't know, it's different. I always assumed it would be great, you know, because everything would be running on time, you know, things would be priced effectively. Cars,
yeah, relatively speaking, yeah.
Cars would be driving as fast as they should be.
Everything's relatively cheaper, at least competitive prices.
Are they cheaper?
I think so. I think Germany's. Like,
Maybe, yeah. It's possible. I don't know.
I mean, they're
really
really
don't
greedy
know.
people.
But
I would love to go to a McDonald's in Germany, to be honest.
I'm sure everything is very cleanly, very
Higher
efficient.
quality.
Yeah.
Well, that's true of Europe in general for food,
Cheaper
fast
too,
food.
right? I think most of Europe's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Eastern Europe, like maybe Southern Europe.
Yeah.
All right, let's think of it this way. What McDonald's would be shittier than the shittiest American McDonald's?
Shittiest American McDonald's has a bunch of extraneous factors that make it particularly bad.
Maybe in South America.
South American
Or maybe-
McDonald's? Do
or-
you think that's shittier than
Or cheap, or
like a Detroit McDonald's?
Yeah,
like you'll only find a worse McDonald's in Mexico or
like
some
like Indonesian McDonald's probably.
Oh, I feel like an Indonesian McDonald's is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I could see that. A reasoning behind that.
Nah, you gotta look somewhere like you gotta look to like Vietnam or Filipino McDonald's.
Now I feel like
Oh, Filipino McDonald's sounds fucking horrible.
an African McDonald's
Is
probably.
there?
Yeah.
Do they even have a McDonald's
Yes,
in Africa?
they definitely have
Do you like
McDonald's
South
in,
Africa or
in
South
Africa.
African McDonald's, like a South African slum McDonald's. It'll be
Poor
like
McDonald's,
like
yeah.
Diane Word McDonald's, you know, like. It's like they go to like it shows up in one of their music videos and like you know it's like
That's great lighting on the screen.
Yeah.
Nice blues going on.
yeah I would love to hang out with no actually
Oh wait, never mind. You won't
seem like-
find
they
many
seem like really
McDonald's in
occult.
Africa.
I think Diane Word is evil on the occult level.
I
You're
think
right,
so.
by the way, Rich.
What?
McDonald's.
Yeah, I think so.
Did they?
I think they did
Who?
commit sex crimes.
That's like every musician ever, dude.
Oh no! But they were like cultish about it,
Right, it's like a couple, it's like a male-female rape couple.
like Jeffrey Epstein, but like way more ghetto and South African.
By the way, the countries in Africa with McDonald's are South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia. So you're right. There aren't other McDonald's around, really.
So
The couple who rapes together stays together.
Yeah.
yes.
That's
Ride and die, as I
The
said.
couple who rapes together stays together.
Nice.
You want to know how to keep your man? You start a rape cult.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my god.
Like this guy. Yeah.
I mean, that's what. That's literally the key to keeping your man is to be like you're an alpha male. You could have as many wives as you want, and then he'll never leave you. Like he could fuck other bitches, but he will always come back to you because you are the
You
one.
give him a pass on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's like you could put a bullet to his head and he'll tell you give that one girl up who lets you. And he won't do it because he's like that's the one down bitch. But maybe he would. I don't know. I would never give up a woman like that if she lets me go out and fuck around and like. Wouldn't do that herself, which is what Muslim women basically
Yeah,
do.
ride or die. As I said.
Yeah, Muslim women are literally like, you could fuck whoever you want, even though I don't have the same right, and that's why Andrew Tate's a Muslim. He just did it for multiple wives. That's literally what guys like him want.
Well, also, I think he has a lot of Muslim fans, so it fit his following. It was a good PR.
Well, I mean, like Islam is the last religion. It's the last real religion. It's true.
that people have devout followers.
No, I mean it's the last real religion in terms of compromise. Like every other religion is more or less compromised to like such a degree where it's like it's no wonder why Islam is the fastest growing religion at this point.
A lot of it is the conversions in Africa.
Is
where
it?
there's where there's a high population.
I also know that like the Arabic world is like half of it is inbred. You know, like a good
Yeah.
A lot of it's inbred.
a good
yeah.
like 40-something% is like they're all related. Their parents are all related.
Within the
Cousin
Middle
marriages, I believe.
East.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also making them stupid. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it
it's-
has.
Yeah, which is not good. I mean, I don't think that's controversial. I actually like looked this up. Because like when someone first said it to me, they just sounded profoundly racist. They were like, you know, half the Middle East is inbred,
part of
right?
it
I was
is
like, what?
also, I forget the exact mechanics, but the nature of cousin marriage within the Middle East leads to a higher level of inbreeding than in other places.
Well, they value it. They value the concept of cousin marriage because to them it keeps you closer to God. You know, like because you know when
yeah, a bunch of economic reasons, but yes.
like you know if you marry your cousin, you're gonna know the same people. You're gonna know
Yeah.
the same family members. You're gonna
Keep things within the family culturally.
You have the
and-
same customs. You know.
Yeah,
So it's like, and you're gonna have some kind of connection, but you won't be brother and sister.
yeah,
But direct cousin marriage still does fuck you up
yeah.
genetically.
It does a lot as over the long
Or
term.
could be,
Yeah,
yeah. It's like go fishing for that.
yeah. I forget what it is, but
They gotta stop that, you know. Like, but the problem is, like, I don't know if it would keep growing as a religion if they did stop cousin marriage. Like, I don't know if that would.
oh,
I think that would hurt.
well, it'll cut into a bunch of their base, I suppose.
That's what
a
I'm
lot
saying.
of their growth is within Africa, though, as I said.
First of all, like, we gotta admit, every growth in religion is like contingent on fucking the breeding program behind it. Like Judaism, for example. Judaism is literally, in my opinion, very strong because of the way it's arranged. It's like you're not a real Jew unless your mother is a Jew.
Yeah,
And that's genius to me because that makes perfect sense. If you want to grow your religion, you got to put it on the more valuable biological reproductive partner, which is the woman.
right.
Because, you know, like a male can impregnate like 100 women in a week, whereas a woman
Well,
can
you'd
only...
think that would spread the religion, but
Yeah.
I guess one factor
No, it wouldn't.
is
It wouldn't because women are the ones who have to like keep it going and like actual, you
Mm.
know, to keep the family dynamic, the nuclear family concept together.
I see, fair.
Because without that, society doesn't thrive, and that's also like, yeah, I know nuclear family comes with its own problems, and like, you know, like maybe tribe and communal, you know, child rearing was more effective at, you know, in times back then, but now it's not like that. So now nuclear families is more suited for the modern time. It's just
Is it really much better?
no, it's not much better.
I
That's the
feel
problem,
like
too.
it's, well, on a level of individual liberty and self-actualization, it's better.
Yes, but in terms
Clan
of
loyalties or extended family loyalties can get very intense and very imposing, which is one of the reasons why people tend to move away from those dynamics.
like literally, fuck you, dad. I shouldn't have to have an arranged marriage.
Well,
Like, get the
also
fuck-
just saying "fuck you, grandma" or "fuck you, great aunt, uncle," having that relative have decision making over you is very overbearing. It's not just mom and dad; it's your grandparents, it's your aunts, your uncles. They're all having an intense level of focus on your life. You also have dynamics of like you're tied having to like your cousin does something stupid and gets into a feud with someone and then you're obligated to take part of the feud.
But we have to
That's very imposing.
we have to admit there is also a malicious institutional reason to go against the clan dynamic. For example, if we do away with the clan mentality, we would never have a situation of the Kennedys ever again. You know, that was a big problem for the feds.
Also, also stop genocide as well.
Yeah.
How many clans have been wiped out in various wars?
The samurai in the
Samurai,
era,
Russians.
yeah. The Africans. Yeah, it's true. The Chinese. Yeah.
Just as an individual, you're less inclined to violence in a bunch of ways because you're not caught up in all these extended family dramas.
It's also going-
You're just an
Wiped out
individual.
as a group.
It's also going if you observe nature, like any apex predator, like if you look at lions, for example, when one alpha male takes over a pride by defeating their alpha male, after they defeat that alpha male, first thing they do is they eat that alpha male's kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kill their kids. So that's literally like genetic warfare at that point, you know? It's like I got to do this. I got to kill your kids. I got to kill your family
Yeah.
line. So it's kind of like reinforcing that. Maybe it is just predator mentality, you know?
Lions
Honestly,
also-
I don't know. I think these are factors in it.
Lion's bold.
I think the biggest factor is just not being responsible for the actions of extended relatives. That really clears up you in a lot of ways as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, what do you think of the future is? You think we're probably just going to reinforce this nuclear family shit? It's just
No,
gonna
it
go-
feels like people are moving more and more to an atomized individual outside of the nuclear family. An individual without any connection
Yeah.
is increasingly dominant as a worldview.
Oh, so like not even a. So
Not even a family, just the individual.
so we're gonna
Right.
shrink as a population. You're saying
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Okay.
100%, yeah.
that wouldn't be so bad. It'll be like Death Stranding. You know, nobody would leave their homes.
Well, we're already in that position. Death Stranding, as people said, perfectly captured COVID times of the intense isolation.
Yeah, Hideo Kojima is a weirdly prophetic dude. I don't know what his deal is, but he's like Stephen King in a way. You know, like
Or just autism, I assume.
no, I don't think he's autistic.
I
don't-
think he definitely is. Also, speak Japanese.
Do you think Stephen King and Hideo Kojima are both autistic?
More Kojima than Stephen King.
What?
More Kojima is more autistic than Stephen King is.
You think Hideo? I don't think Hideo is
I
autistic.
thought I'm incredibly autistic.
You think so?
Yeah.
The reason why I think he isn't autistic is because of how like uncreative he is in a lot of things. You know, he makes too good of a product.
I don't know about that. I think it's just the hype as well. I think just make dumb
For
plot
example, an
choices.
autistic person would never have Monster Energy be like your mode of hydration.
Yes, it is. That's a very autistic
Yeah,
behavior to have
how?
Monster Energy.
Vocal
They
parasites.
love their energy drinks. Autists love energy drinks.
Also, I'm having weird thoughts about autism. First of all, I don't think it's like this like genetic demographic trait. Like I think it's
No, I don't think so.
I think
either.
it's a
Yeah.
socialized condition.
A lot of people who are described as autistic, I think, are just under socialized.
That's what I'm saying.
I
like-
think that's a big factor. If there's any increase separately from that, it's some other factor, perhaps even environmental, like nutritional or
like
disease.
a lot of the autistic people I know were coddled as fuck as
Yeah.
kids. You know, a lot of them.
I was just relatively isolated.
And like
yeah.
they have an argument for that. It's like, oh well, that's because the autistic kids that weren't coddled in
Well,
those
it
worse
leads
environments
to
were killed.
self. No, not even that. It's just like there's a self-reinforcing dynamic where someone is diagnosed as autistic, and then their parents, being concerned, put them in less strenuous social situations, which just enable or
More social disorder,
emphasize, social disorders.
So that makes you more quote unquote autistic. So yeah, I do think like a lot of these autistic people are just like, it's not genetic. And it's
I think
not,
it probably is largely under socialization for a lot of people. A lot of people described as such.
But that's like out of the pan and into the fire. It's like, well, how do you fix under socialization? It's like that's even harder, you know. Then you because at least with some genetic malfunction in autism, you could just like CRISPR it away or give them pills or no. That's not gonna fix it because this is not.
I mean, presumably, rather than using sci-fi technology, it's easier just to encourage more socialization and more normative socialization.
Exactly.
Whereas if it's something like, oh, it's genetic, we have to CRISPR people into a fix.
And let's also
that's a lot bolder of something to request.
We also have to realize how like something as like external as socialization can affect you on a cellular level. It could affect you metabolically. It could affect you.
This is an unusually isolated time in human history. People have usually lived with a lot more people than we ever have.
And that literally affects how your cells develop. It affects how everything develops. Like people underestimate how like simple social interactions can cause ripples in your like cellular in your cellular replication, your DNA. More or less.
Yeah, I could see it having a biological effect.
Another thing about biology is like the whole thing about generational curses.
Yeah. You mean spiritually, genetically?
I mean, if we're talking about like generational, it's like one and the same at that point. It's something inherited and passed on naturally and spiritually. Or emotionally, you could say. You know, like that. I mean, you could say like that's the purpose of anyone's life is to solve that generational curse. This one guy getting laid is like the twink. I love it.
He's very malicious, though. He's fitting into a griffin from Berserk quality. He seems very sadistic.
Yeah, this fucking anime intro shit. This isn't even intros. This is just scenes from this.
From this pervert anime.
Yeah.
Put on something visually interesting, we said, and you put on.
Yeah, this is great.
You know what I
Yeah.
think though? You know what I do think? I think pre-internet era when we were exposed to all
Yeah.
this shit, I think people were just naturally this fucking perverted. Like I think if you go into like a normal 20-something
Porno's
Japanese,
really good,
yeah.
no, not in Japanese,
But just in general, yeah.
yeah, back then
Porno's- yeah,
from like the 70s to the late 90s, I think everything was like really perverted.
This is 97, by the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Not perverted online or media wise.
It's very horny, and there's a very young population.
Yeah,
to be
I
horny.
think everyone from the 70s to the 90s were just fucking in front of each other.
60s and 2, yeah.
I think the media is actually watered down from those eras
Oh, there's way less sex in media than
Yeah,
there
it's
used to
pretty
be.
sexless.
I mean, people have wide availability of pornography.
You know
which
what's
is
weird?
another
It's almost
factor.
like in the modern era, media got more sexualized, but real life got less sexualized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mainstream media got
sexuality.
more sexualized, and yes, but real life got less sexualized.
Yeah.
I mean, individuals are dealing. This is a very cliche thing to say, but individuals are dealing with ubiquitous pornography way more than Hustler magazines in the past, or
Yeah.
even VHS pornography.
So back,
So there's a far stronger divide.
but also,
between-
you know what that means? Back then, there
also
was
people are flirting less, hitting on people less.
also back then there were a lot more rapes and molestations that were going on too. As a result,
That's very true.
Yeah.
The baby boomers had an incredible wave of rapes.
Yeah.
Sexual assault.
and they didn't even look at it as that.
Basically,
They just
yeah, they
looked at it
did.
as- yeah,
Boomer
yeah.
women, well, certain boomer women.
They were just like, this is how
will
men
be-
are. You know, they hold you down. Even if you struggle, you may not want it. And it starts to feel good after a while.
threshold for what women consider rape is much higher for boomer and Gen X women than
Yep.
it is for millennial or Zoomer women.
It's like, oh, what? It's normal for him to beat you up a bit, you know, and to hold you down and rip your clothes. Oh,
Well,
it's just what we did back then.
That's even bolder than what I was going to say. There's a bunch of ambiguous situations that many boomer women will say.
Oh,
this
what?
doesn't
I
count
said
rape.
no and stop, and he keeps going, and he kisses me anyway.
Shrink
Yeah,
Tony-
the-
Now
lot
we
of-
call that rape, but back then
Shrink
that was just
Toniac.
For
It's-
boomer and Zoomer,
That was being
for
a
boomer
man.
and X
Yeah.
and Gen X, it's
I was
just
just being
very
a-
normative.
I was being Sean Connery, James Bond. You know, when a guy acts like that, I could just smell it on him. I could smell that musk, that just
Yeah.
wave of like masculine. I smell it. You
they
know,
see me dying off, a dying breed.
Well, obviously, they're also just old. I mean, also, everyone here is you're too passive to just rape a boomer woman, even if you want to.
you're right. I am
But-
too passive to rape. a
Actually,
woman.
all of us are, yeah. But also, they're just less attractive, so the
Yeah.
opportunity comes up. But theoretically,
That's what they would. They wouldn't mind it because they would.
They wouldn't
to,
mind it,
To
yeah,
them,
there's
it
a
would
lot
be
of-
like they would be like.
there's
oh.
a lot of jilfs that you could just go and fuck right now,
Yeah.
and they would laugh it off or be very intrigued
Oh,
by
that was
it.
weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Not even weird. They would be, it's just like in the 1970s.
But you know, a lot of Gen Xers had some weird experiences
Mm-hmm.
with those boomer women. Like Gen Xers when they were like teenagers, had weird trysts with like.
That makes sense. In general, have you heard of the theory saying that boomers and Gen X are basically the same generation, and millennials and Zoomers are basically the same
Yeah, they were
generation?
fucking each other and like both all year
Yeah,
long. You know, like
it's just almost like Gen X is really late boomers. I mean, these generational things are by no means hard laws anyway.
I mean, Gen
Perhaps
X was
we
boomers'
just
kids,
divided
right?
them- No, it was silent generation.
Oh yeah, so there's boomers, then silent generation.
So
then the Gen
greatest
X.
generation, World War II generation, their kids are boomers. Mostly
And the
silent
boomers had
generation.
silent generation.
No, silent generation is like the younger siblings of greatest generation. I forgot the previous generation. Silent generation is like they did not fight in World War II. They were just too young. Maybe they fought in Korea. They were caught between
like Mad Men.
Mad Men, not what Sterling, the silver-haired guy.
No,
Yeah.
Don
But
Draper.
Don Draper
Was
is
the
silent,
silent
generation.
generation,
His older friend is a greatest generation of World War II.
Well, they all
Most of-
represented all the characters represented a different. Like there was Don Draper was the silent generation. Then his friend was the
Pete, whatever
was the boomer, and then
No,
the one
yeah.
before him was the
Was
older
Pete a
guy
boomer?
after that.
Pete is a boom.
His 20s, right? Yeah.
He's a very early boomer. Like he would listen to Rock Around the Clock. I think I could be wrong about me. Once again, these rules are not hard and fast.
So what are millennials parallel to? Like we're not. So before Gen X are like so we're like the silent generation. Millennials are like the silent generation then.
No, if we're going on a dynamic where one of the generations is very similar to the preceding generation, that generation is silent generation.
Like you take after your grandfather kind of deal.
I wouldn't even go. I don't know about that dynamic. I would have to think
But I
about
mean,
that
if the
more.
boomers, if a silent generation takes
Well,
after the,
what I'm getting at is that greatest generation and silent generation, really silent generation are baby greatest generation.
yeah,
You have the main generation baby boomers. The baby generation is the Gen X, but Gen X is really
Gen
like,
X are baby versions of the boomers.
right.
And
And
the-
then by the same mechanic, I would say millennials are the main generation, and then Zoomers are the baby version of millennials. Does that make sense?
Oh,
You have
okay,
two
so it's like, yeah.
generations. One is the more dominant one. Other one has its own unique dynamics.
I was
but
thinking
is
of this,
interacting with.
I was thinking of this repeating 3-part dynamic. For example, you have
I have
great.
to look at the earlier ones, like
You
the
have the-
Lost Generation that fought in World War One.
Yeah, I was thinking you have the greatest generation, you have the boomers, you have the silent generation. Then after that, you
Silent Generation is between Boomers and Greatest Generation.
have. Okay, sorry. You have the greatest generation, the silent generation, and the boomers, right? Then after that, you have Gen X, millennials, then Zoomers.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like as the millennials, we're like the repetition of the silent generation.
No, Zoomers would be Silent Generation repetition.
So it's the greatest generation, silent generation, the boomers, then Gen X, the millennials. So no, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and as the Gen X millennial, we're in the middle, just like the.
I know. I forget the book by whatever the two people that wrote the generations. I'm uncertain if I agree with their take on it. Is what I'm getting at. I'm saying that there's way more commonality between millennials and Zoomers, and even
Or does Gen Z even care about what it's like to have like a landline in your home?
no, but it's. I think.
For it.
Yeah, I think Gen Z, landlines are what Buddy Holly was to Gen Xers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like Gen Xers are only like 20 years after Buddy Holly when they're like in their teens or whatever in the 70s, 80s. 20 to 30 years later. Consider this. Happy Days is what, late 70s? Happy Days is set in like the mid 50s, right? 20 years later, you have nostalgia for the 50s. Some of the people engaging in that nostalgia are Gen Xers. If you're a Zoomer thinking about a landline or nostalgic for it, you're equivalent to. I should start looking up to try to defend this point, but there's multiple waves within these. I'm making an argument. I don't know if this is true or bullshit because the concept of generation is kind of bullshit. Of interactions between these large generations. Happy Days is from.
It would be fucked up if I ended up marrying a Gen Z girl. That'd be
Why?
messed up. I don't
Happy
know.
Days is from 74 to 84, and it's set between it's set 20 years prior, basically.
I just want to find a nice millennial bitch, you know? Just find a nice millennial girl who likes who watched Toy Story in theaters. You know? I mean, I watched Lion King in theaters, so that makes
Same.
me a little old, but I want a bitch who watched Toy Story in theaters, you know?
Well, if you can find one.
It's possible.
Toy Story, I mean, not Tarzan was good in theaters.
Yeah, good soundtrack. By
Yeah.
Genesis.
Yeah, by Peter Gabriel, Genesis.
Who was it? Phil Collins?
Phil Collins,
Yeah.
not Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel, you're right. Sorry. It's Phil Collins, Genesis, that the soundtrack to Tarzan
Yeah.
is.
Phil Collins is the. I wanna know. Can you show me? That was actually pretty insane for a Disney movie. Like in all Disney movies for Phil Collins, like to do the soundtrack, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, I think Tarzan. I mean, what other like in terms of like pure rockiness, like what other one had a good original score? Like what other Disney movie? I think Tarzan takes the
Like
cake.
rock music? Or is it good music in general?
I mean, Phil Collins is rock music, right?
Yeah, he's like prog rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Then like new wave in the 80s. He's way more of a pop musician, yeah.
Yeah, because like everything else was gimmicky at this point in Disney movies. But I'm saying like for an original score and original tracks made for a movie, like Phil Collins did it for Tarzan, and that's good. Like what beats that in a Disney movie, honestly? Except for something like ridiculous like Fantasia or some shit.
Yeah. I guess it does. I don't know. Tarzan feels like it's not mentioned much as a Disney. It's part of the Disney revival, right? Like it's after Aladdin, Lion King, the princess movies that they were coming out with.
But it was pre-Pixar.
Pixar, what? Like Toy Story in like 97 is
I mean,
the first
Tarzan
start
was
of
like
it.
was still
98, 99.
Yeah.
It's 2D hand-drawn animation, but
Maybe Tarzan was the last of the two D.
no, it's like Treasure Planet and something else, I think.
Yeah.
Damn, we don't
Or-
have any. Do we have any more? What was the last hand-drawn Disney movie?
Was it
Over a decade
the
ago.
Black Princess in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Really?
Last hand, no. Traditional cell painting, they began using a mixture of digital coloring and hand drawing. Little Mermaid is the last fully hand drawn.
But like,
Last 2D. The Princess and the Frog is the last traditional style, but it has digital effects.
yeah.
Oh, wait, 2011's Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, that's nice.
2011, yeah.
I love Winnie the Pooh. I'm a huge fan of Winnie the Pooh.
Really? How do you feel about the dark and twisted public domain Winnie the Pooh movie or other materials?
I'm not that offended by it. I mean, I lost all right to be offended by it when I accepted like Winnie the Pooh and Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes
like-
sense. That's a good point.
Yeah, like once I accepted Winnie the Pooh and Kingdom Hearts, I was
That's
like,
intriguing. You're a fan of what? Did you read the books as a kid or just like the cartoons?
the earliest cartoons. I watched that VHS so much as a little boy. I wore it out.
Yeah.
It was just so comforting, I guess, especially in winter time.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, when Pooh like it meets like Owl in the windy treehouse.
Yo, think about this. We grew up with rewatching things on VHS. I know kids love repetition in general. How many kids are just watching a greater variety of material?
Yeah, every day. Cause they
I
don't
wonder,
Yeah.
but then again, I think from what I've heard or seen of posters talking about the kids, their kids still engage in a lot of repetitive media watching. But there surely are some that are just like, I'm going to watch there's probably some completionists, I'm going to watch every single thing.
You know what I think matters? It's the very, very, very beginning of true cognition in a child. It's like, what do you expose them to at the very beginning? It could be anime. It could be Star Wars. It could be video games. It could be Disney. It could be gay.
Yeah, everyone
shit,
has
LGBT shit.
kids
It could
that,
be, yeah. It's-
kids movies or movies they watched a lot as a
and
kid.
that's what you're gonna show them first. It's like, well, this is what worked for me. I'll show them this. You know, I'm gonna show my kid Naruto, and they're probably gonna grow up to be a fucking samurai master. You know, like or some shit.
Well,
Like,
that would be your highest aspiration, I know.
well, I mean, because I love Naruto. I think like I look at that show and I'm like, this is a good show to kids. Like, what do they promote? Like friendship, you know, like
Yeah.
always being there for people you care about. Like, what's bad about that? Like, you know, like
Yeah.
that's great. If anything, I prefer that over like modern Disney movie narratives, which is like this bullshit fairy tale shit that just makes no fucking sense. It's like, oh, you know,
Yeah, here's an interesting detail is how little anime is now consumed by everyone. Normies watch anime. All these minorities and immigrants watch anime.
well, it's been like that in
And-
Japan for decades. Like you
Yeah.
see old men reading manga on the train.
Yeah,
like-
but
Well, it's like most people have like mainstream taste in anime. You feel like weird shit, you're a weirdo.
Well, the thing about it is anime and manga was always supposed to be widely appealing. It was never designed initially from its inception to be just for kids. It was always from its inception saying the people who first made it were like, this could also apply to adults. Like everyone could,
Yeah.
you know, so it was from the beginning. It was never like marketed. It wasn't like a marketed design just for kids, just to make money for kids entertainment. No, this was like an actual art form that expressed shit to everybody, all humans, you know, so because it was accessible. It's easier to draw those shapes and to make what you need, you know, like back then. That's how it evolved into shit like this, you know, like. But yeah, admittedly though, early Western animation, like early 20th century Western animation, far superior to anime. I'll admit.
well, and it inspired anime directly, but yes. I don't know. They used to spend a lot of effort on it.
Yeah. But anime had this weird, it like had like that comic artist mentality into animation, whereas Disney was, like, you know, original Western animation was like they were just trailblazing, you know, they were like doing
Yeah.
crazy technological shit for the time, you know, in terms of like telling a story through drawings and stuff. But what Japan did, they like like if Western anime, if like the West gives you a 32-bit cartridge, Japan figures out how to make art out of the 16-bit cartridge. You know?
Yeah. More limited field or limited material.
Mm-hmm. But for some reason, limitation just creates a more fertile ground for like raw creativity.
It does.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
most arts, yeah.
It's very weird how that works. You know, like
Yeah.
like to be the most creative, you give the people the least amount of like mediums as possible.
Well, restraints lead to it. It should
Yeah.
be said.
That's why there's like such a strong divide between the musician, the visual artist. You know,
Yeah.
one decorates space and the other decorates time. You know, like so there has to be like these. But once you start blending and wiping away those boundaries, you get shit like this. You know, like a visual, audible, timely, and visual like momentary treat. I love anime. I will never be able to like live in a world without. Are you an anime fan, Richie?
Yeah, if I'm also.
Are you an anime fan, Carmen?
Not as much, I think, but
Yeah, I'm
I
not
do.
super
I'm
into
into it.
I like older stuff. as
Yeah.
you can obviously tell.
Because I love comic books, and anime to me like is comic books come alive, like straight up, compared to like any other cartoon style.
I mean, it's in the past, but now it's like old motion now, which is like dog shit. It's like because like I said, it's like separate from reality now. Anime.
Once again, this is a case of something that is very referential to past works of the same media.
Yeah, but I also want to make a case for like amazing yet simplistic Western quote unquote anime, like. You know the Warner Brothers animations for like Batman and Superman.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Those are amazing. Like
Yeah.
actually, I think those were like the highest feats of Western animation I've ever seen.
Mhm.
I mean, Batman, the original like '90s Batman cartoon was.
What in the future? Or do you mean the?
No, the original series.
Why
Yeah.
the one that's like it's
The
like
original
30s,
series.
30s it's aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, forward.
I mean,
is
Batman
Dark
Beyond
Knight,
was
yeah.
great too, but Batman Beyond was also just an offshoot of that series, which was the original '90s Batman series. First, they started with the Warner Brothers logo, and then you see the two eyes popping out to represent the blimp spotlights in the intro, and it was just good. It was perfect, and the stories were like mature, but not
Yeah.
too much for kids. It was just perfect. They had like fuck. And then
Joker's not about paying taxes.
and that original
Yeah.
series evolved. So first it evolved where, it was just Batman and he was getting through, and he included Robin. He had to include a Robin, which was when he met, whatever.
That's like season 2. They have Robin or something.
And then they also after that, they made the spin-off show Batman and Superman. So it
well,
was,
actually, the entire animated DCU is coming off of originally
Batman and Superman, yeah.
Well,
Batman.
the original one for all of it is the Batman the animated series of the original animated series.
And then they added Superman to create Batman and Superman.
Yeah, and like
then
the
they
Justice
introduced
League.
then they introduced Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, the Flash.
Yeah.
And that created the is that Silver Age? No, that's like after Silver Age, right? That's like
That's with comics.
no. I mean, I'm I'm saying the years
golden
was
age of comics
was like 60s, 50s,
No,
40s.
it's like the 40s,
40s,
30s, 40s.
Then the Silver Age.
Silver
was
Age
like,
is like the 60s, 50s, 60s in comics.
and what was
Bronze
after the
Age is
Bronze
70s,
Age, there you go.
80s.
Yeah.
And then I forget what they call like the Grim and Dark Age of the 90s onward. But like those ages things is particularly referring to the 20th century with those.
Yeah. Now we're in like a whole new era where it's like LGBT versions of every single fucking hero in both Marvel and DC. I'm not knocking it, but I'm not praising it either. It's just, it is what it is. Actually, you
There
know what?
just aren't that many readers of
Yeah, comics
of
are
American
dying.
comics.
Everyone's going to manga now.
Manga is hugely influential. Young people of all stripes read manga, and there's just a far wider variety of manga
because
readers.
the manga appeals to more black-pilled people. Like,
It
I look at
appeals
like
to a
Really?
wider
Yeah,
variety
why?
of people.
I look at like all the like in social media, all my quote-unquote friends who are like black-pilled alcoholics / recovering drug addicts / whatever, just trying to like live in Midwest. They read manga. Not
yeah, but
comics
like
for a
normal people, like not normal. No, I mean like I don't know. I've seen manga reading among very normal people who would never read American comics.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
American comics are really good. For example, way back, you know what? All you fucking manga addicts may underestimate this, but like Western comics was dealing with heroin addiction. All right.
And what the 70s,
Yeah.
comic code voting.
Yeah, remember the Green Arrow slapped his little fucking sidekick bitch up. He was like,
Green Lantern and Green
"Shoot,
Arrow. Yeah.
smack you fucking little bitch," and he smacked him. He was like, "You dick."
Yeah, I don't know, but currently
Iron Man being
American
alcoholics and the plot point.
American comics are really lagging behind artistically and definitely in sales.
Well, I mean
Sales
that's
was-
why.
Manga's
That's
more
not
free
true.
form as well. You
What?
can
I mean, no. I was gonna say, like, for example, Invincible. Invincible made huge waves in the Western comic thing. But that was, I mean, that's like, I guess at the end, that's just really just riding on like antithesis ideology. You know? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the sales of manga are huge. Anime viewership is huge. Like way bigger than any Western.
Well, also let's be
comics
real.
medium.
Anime, like manga, is easier to produce than Western comics.
Yeah, black
It
and
is.
white.
Also, you use AI now. Like it's so easy.
Also, it's very strenuous to your body and your body as well. Mangakas live like pretty harsh lives, dude. It's constant work, basically.
No, mangaka live harsh lives because of the competition. Western comic artists live harsh lives because of the industry.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I can see that. Mostly they work their ass off constantly, too, 24/7, basically.
Because, like I said, the manga format is relatively simple, whereas Western comics, you gotta do some weird out there shit, you know, like to like stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. For example, what are the most notable Western comics? We got like the Marvel shit, DC shit aside. There's Invincible. There's Scott Pilgrim. There's
Dark Horse. Series.
Scott Pilgrim is derivative of manga, though.
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, I mean,
No, it's
inspired
overtly
by.
wrong. Yeah, it's overtly.
It's more inspired by gaming than manga, I think.
Artistically and
Yeah,
all that.
I think it's more video gamey than manga.
I mean, you have Franco-Belgium comics, which are big in Europe, but really very limitedly known here.
I mean, what other Western comics are there? There's Invincible, I guess, is technically a Western comic. There's also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a comic?
Yes, it was originally a comic.
But that's Marvel, I guess. Technically.
Nope, it was an independent comics label. I forget what it was. But that was an independent comic label originally. It's designed as a parody of Marvel comics in the 80s.
What other was Transformers a comic?
Yeah, it became that was under a Marvel license.
Oh, another prime example of an iconic Western comic series was Calvin and Hobbes.
That's a comic strip, but yes.
Oh, they never
comic
made single
strips
issues. You're right. Yeah. They never
in
made single
general were also part of American trend that no one reads comic strips anymore. I know they still get published in newspapers, but no one reads newspapers anymore.
You know what? You're right. Manga does literally wreck.
It took a
comic
while
industry.
for you to get here, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Manga destroys it.
I mean, the readership is much higher than Western
What is it about?
comics
Do they
now.
just tell better stories? Like,
I think there's a greater variety
Yeah,
of them, and I
there's
think
a lot
anime
more creativity
meant that a
around.
lot of kids were introduced to it among Zoomers. You see it. Okay, once again on the generational note, there's certain things that like a small number of weird millennials were into that are mainstream among Zoomers. Way more mainstream among Zoomers. A lot of trends with cosplaying, internet subcultures, video game trends, being weeaboos. A lot of these things were more like weird, small subcultures among millennials, but the same dynamics could be found among far more Zoomers.
Yeah, you're right. Manga is the
Which is
most-
why I'm saying that one of the factors I'm saying of Zoomers being
So
a,
manga is the most popular visual medium on paper, like visual medium
Yes.
on paper.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it has huge sales and huge viewerships in both
And, I
around
mean,
the world, but
you got it to the point where China
around the
and
world.
Korea are making their own manga.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
anime.
They
and
don't
all
need
these things
Japan.
are also big in a lot of other places in the world. Latin America loves these things. Southeast Asia loves these things.
Also, like, what's even weirder is now the internet's out. You got like the most popular manga being like, "My stepmom is a hot woman and she'd rather have sex with me than my own father," and it's like I read them. I mean, I had to. They drew me
You
in.
said
I was
that.
like, dude, this is ridiculous. I got to read
Yeah.
this. And I would read it. I'll be like, I gotta see the next chapter. You know, like I gotta find out. I gotta find out if Satoshi and his stepmom have an actual connection or if it's just hormones. You know, like
Yeah.
But they get, and it's not even like actual publicated manga at this point. It's just web comics.
Yeah.
But they use the
Dojin.
same like artistic fidelity,
Yeah.
and you're like, they're doing it. You know, we're talking about like little basement dweller people with like a computer and like art software, and they're making like literally the same quality shit with like just less like.
I guess
more,
there is a low entry point, but yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's really funny though. I mean, just to see the kind of stories that these like basement dwelling people cook up, like they have this like sexy version of the Olympic gods in a web comics. That's what I should say. That's what's gonna take over manga. Web comics are like way more powerful, man. Like
There's already been a strong following of them, but yeah.
I don't like web comics. I prefer manga over because I'm a traditionalist in the end. Like,
Yeah.
I prefer comic. So web comics are inherently offensive, but I could see how like Gen Alpha and Gen Z love those fucking
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, closing statements. So let's figure out something we would like to learn to cook before the end of 2024.
Food wise, something I
Richie.
learned to cook.
What is something you want to learn to cook before the end of the year?
Duck confit.
What?
Duck confit.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's really hard to make apparently.
And you're going to learn to make this before the
I
end
like
of the
to,
year?
yeah.
All right.
It's a process.
Would you, or is there a more realistic choice?
I mean, that's
or-
like the ideal. Well, I like to learn how to make.
What's the most simplest and realistic?
Maybe hot pot.
You never learned how to make your
No,
own?
no.
All right, fine. All right, hot pot, custom hot pot, homemade hot pot. That's actually, I don't know how to make a
I
fucking
assume it's
hot pot.
relatively simple.
It's probably like a weird calzone kind of thing.
Well, it's like getting the ingredients and making like basically a stew, one vegetable, one meat.
Yeah, an instant stew. Yeah. That's a
Okay.
good choice. That's a good choice for
All
something to learn.
right, so my choice is I want to learn how to make a really perfect fish dish. I don't know how to cook fish at all.
I think it's mostly baking.
I
I
don't
think,
know.
I think it's the idea of cooking fish, baking it.
Pan fried, I'll grill it. I don't know what to do.
What,
I just,
what do you think, Carmen? Baking
Yeah, fish is
ideal.
a lot of fish is baked or pan
I
fried
want
or
pan fried. I want to learn how to make the perfect pan fried fish dish. Salmon.
yeah.
I want to make the perfect. I want to know how to season it right or marinate it or whatever. I just want to learn how to prepare it and just make a good. Because I know how to do beef, chicken, pork. I know how to do all. I just want fish. Fish is something that scares me. Seafood. Yeah. What anyway? What's something you?
I
wanna
would
cook?
really like to learn and also try to do goat.
I go
Barbacoa.
to okay.
I think it's relatively easy. A lot of
Yeah.
it's just like slow cooking it for a long time.
Right.
This is kind of a
It's very
cheat because it's a
sinewy, yeah.
lazy thing that I just don't do.
Does that
I
count as
would-
mutton?
I might actually count as mutton.
Because I
don't
know this
mutton
girl
is
who's like,
normally
I
sheep.
hate mutton. It's too gamey and kind of fish. I'm like, fuck you. That's the best part. It's too
Well,
fucking-
sheep, right? Or yeah, sheep.
But goat is good too.
I would like to try goat. Get to
I've
The
had
first
goat
time I had
before.
goat-
It's nice.
Carmen introduced me to goat. So I never had goat in my life until we went to this Mexican place in Staten Island. And like when we first went there, I got my standard burrito, but Carmen was like, I'm gonna get the barbacoa sandwich. I'm like, what's barbacoa? And he goes, goat. I'm like, you could eat goat? And he's like, yeah, it's really good. I'm like, all right. So I tried some of the meat and I was like, this is fucking delicious.
Do you like lamb, Chris?
What?
Do you like lamb?
Lamb?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like lamb. I like lamb.
Lamb's my
racks.
personal favorite of all
I like
meats.
well, the reason why I like lamb is because it's always prepared so creatively. Like they'll put like cherry glaze with mint leaves
Yeah.
sprinkle on it. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Greasy.
Like I've never saw this before. Like,
That's true.
Greasy. It's hard to describe the taste too. It's like it's meat, but also it's richer than meat.
but it's sweet
Lamb.
too.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
like
what
sweetness
the
to it.
fuck? Lamb is decadent.
Lamb, I like to try. Veal, I never really. I cooked a little bit. Veal is harder with young
All right,
cattle.
you know what? No, since we're only in February, this is. I'm gonna pour a judge. We'll break it down about food a little bit because you guys, I mean, you've lived in New York a long time, but you haven't.
Yeah.
So let's break down a bit of food. So, what have you had so far in New York?
like cuisine wise, or actually,
No,
I haven't
Carmen,
had anything
Carmen.
too outlandish.
I think the most outlandish thing we have is like
have you been to Peter Luger's?
No,
No.
that's a steakhouse.
You never been to Peter Luger's Steakhouse?
No, I've
we
heard
had,
good things about
We
it.
had beef tartare like 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that's all right.
that wasn't a great beef.
So Peter
tartare.
Luger. So that's
yeah.
on the list. Have you ever had artichoke pizza?
Yeah, I've had
I have, yeah.
You've had artichoke pizza?
Yeah, like once. I should do that. again.
I've had it a couple times.
Okay. Have you had? Let's see. You've had Korean barbecue here. I know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had dim sum in Chinatown?
Yes.
Yeah. Like one,
Yeah?
Yeah. One.
Yeah, I
one
should do
time.
that again. I should
Yeah,
have
we
more
should.
dim sum.
Mm.
I've had African food once or twice.
Yeah.
here.
What about jerk chicken from Queens?
That's something I need to do.
Yeah.
Despite having lived
Yeah,
in Queens, I would love jerk chicken.
Let's do jerk chicken.
Jerk chicken would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's a good idea. Caribbean stuff in general, I like to try
Right.
more of. As I
Have you
mentioned
had-
with Coke.
There's a Uyghur restaurant like Midtown.
Uyghur. I would love to go to a Uyghur.
wanted to go
Have
for a
you been
while.
to a Uyghur place or
No.
Uyghur?
No.
I think it's Uyghur.
No.
At least based on
Uyghur,
that
yeah.
one. That's the Muslim Chinese being genocided in
Uyghur.
China.
Oh, Carmen, I never told you this. Some people used to work. My coworkers used to be Calmec apparently.
Ooh, Calmex. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, they're really buff.
You know what I
they're
want?
Super strong.
You know what I want all of us to do? I want us to go to a proper place and to get sandwiches and coffee at a Cuban restaurant, like a real deal Cuban, like Cuban sandwiches and Cuban coffee.
That sounds great. Actually, let's do
I
that.
want to do that. I know we've all had Cuban and coffee. I just want to do it together. You know?
I love a Cubana sandwich. It's a great sandwich.
But with the Cuban coffee,
Yeah, that sounds great.
we should do it because you'll get the itis from the Justice sandwich, but the coffee you'll get like
Yeah.
hopped up. It's like I think we should do it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
A Cuban sandwich and a Cuban coffee.
Yeah, isn't like the bread sweet or whatever. It's like covered in sugar. Or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's oily and oh, I could go for it right now. You know what else I would like? A black diner coffee with a Reuben sandwich that's still hot and steaming.
Ooh, yeah.
Are you getting
Diners are
hungry?
really died off as a
Yeah.
New York thing, but
Well,
yes.
Is a Reuben sandwich Jewish? No, it's
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Wait, Reuben? Yeah, as per the name, it's Russian. Yeah, it's
They can't have meat and dairy together.
can have beef and dairy,
No,
meat and dairy.
they can't have meat and dairy. They could have fish and dairy, I think, because lox.
Right.
But I don't think Reuben is kosher.
Reuben
no idea.
sandwich.
Anyway,
North
this
American
is a
grilled
good ep-
cheese.
I want
Swi-
Max to actually come on, to the camera.
Yeah.
Why you gotta be so? I agree. All have to be sober for that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not kosher, but it is associated with kosher delis.
I don't know if it's his job or if it's like
A little bit of that, and also not having a mic. I think he was
Yeah.
frustrated having to swap mics.
No, I don't think that. All right. You know what? Fine. Hopefully next time it will work. We'll work him in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo, these '90s anime were so perverted.
Yeah.
I guess that's
90s.
One,
It's
yeah.
90s. I checked. It's 97.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is great. It's just ass and tits constantly. It doesn't end at all.
Yeah. Anyway, it was fun hanging out. Good night, everybody.